Varuna.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25A. Rishi,
Shunah shepa aji garti.
Devata,
Varuna.
Chandas, Gayatri. Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 1.
यच्छिद्धिते दिशो यथा प्रदेव वरुणं व्रतम् विद्यवि.
For even when we people cast away, so your law of conduct, day after day, divine Varuna. Justice and injustice, both necessary impellers of change. This verse is one of a two-part notion that spans this and the following verse. The theme is the mortal perspective that Varuna symbolizes justice. There are many viewpoints in the mortal world about what justice is. The notion common to all of them is that justice be dispensed in a manner that is equitable and fair, with the caveat that all individuals get what they deserve. The peculiarity of duality is that the term deserving has a differing connotation to each viewpoint, and there are several, based on the plethora of variables engendered by circumstances, the idiosyncrasies of the environment, and those of individuals, that can be delineated into a host of society-specific subordinate variables. The Vedic view of justice, too, is one such. The guiding principles that it considers to be the impelling force of justice are the definitions of truth as represented by natural laws that have been framed for the sole purpose of the expression of the script of existence. This entails that all natural laws must work in a coordinated manner towards mission fulfillment. From the mortal point of view, deviations in this process have probabilistic possibilities of occurrence and have to be dealt with appropriately to keep the mission in ambulation. From the immortal point of view, these perceived deviations too must be part of the script and will have to go through the motion of correction for a purpose. The notion of justice is then only another word in the universal playbook, like injustice is. Together, they are impellers of change in a direction that is predetermined, change that is expressed as and through the various subordinate judicial systems of duality.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 2.
मानावधाय हत्रवेदीलालस्य रीरजः माह्रीणानस्य मन्यवे.
You did not subject us to killer blow of the enraged or to wrath of angry. the universal judicial system. Continuing the discussion from the point of its suspension caused by the transfer of focus from the previous verse to this one, we see that the judicial system of duality could be viewed as limiting cases of the Vedic view of justice and its dispensation, where one or more variables of the set that form the substructure of a given system are accorded more prominence and weightage than others, attributable to the proclivities of the society that it evolves from. The same can be said about the Vedic system as well, as it considers universality as its basis, timelessness as its range of applicability, and the truth of the unmanifest supreme, and being conscious of this notion, and through it being a witness to the happenings in the universe as the aspired ideality. If this viewpoint, given its visualized infinite spread, eternal reach, and omnisituational applicability, can be considered reasonable grounds to make it all-encompassing, then the perspective that all other judicial systems of duality are limiting cases of this grand statutory system is valid. Killer blow of the enraged and wrath of the angry are phrases to indicate that the personified system of justice has no biases, except that of its commitment to the playbook of existence, and is neither happy with rule followers nor angry with rule breakers. In other words, doers are their own judges. Varuna only dispassionately dispenses justice at a time that is in consonance with the requirements of the script. This essentially means that Varuna oversees every cycle of cause and effect, the effect of a cause being quite different from what is expected by mortals, for they are unaware of the ways of the universe. That is for the immortals to know and follow, a privilege granted to them by the unmanifest supreme, as per the Vedic scheme of working of existence.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 3.
विव्रीडीकाय ते मनोरथीरश्वन्दसन्दीतम् गीर्भिर्वारुणसीमहि.
We approach for grace of your mind with words, Varuna, like detained horse to charioteer. Of blinkered horses and harnessed abilities. Even an elementary act such as breathing is an outcome of grace bestowed by the immortals, as long as we relate ourselves only with duality. With the birth of divinity in our consciousness, which is also by grace, because at the time of its bestowal we are still rooted in duality, dawns awareness of a realm beyond. By the time the first blush of dawn metamorphoses to a bright and glorious midday, it must become possible to grace ourselves, but is not something that we would need to, because of the realization that the universe is us. It will be meaningless to grace the source of grace. Duality being a domain of distinctions, we seek the grace of Varuna to accomplish our aspirations, to pull us out of difficult situations and pardon us for sins committed. The verse compares mortals to harnessed horses with responsibilities that are blinker-like, a harness that yokes its physical abilities towards fulfilling those responsibilities and the inevitability of eking out its existence in bondage imposed by the charioteer Varuna. The spark of immortality that is ever present in all mortals needs to be kindled by the grace of immortals to become a raging fire that lights our way to complete awareness and consciousness. Varuna is asked for the fire-kindling grace with hymns and offerings, which will anyway come at its allotted time. The allusion to an allegorical detained horse and the allegorical charioteer is perhaps only a ruse to acknowledge this working arrangement of the universe.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 4.
परायि मे विमन्यवः पदम् दिवस्य इष्टये वयो न वासतेरुप.
For longings in me fly away to strive to get being wealthier, like birds towards dwellings. Seership and last mile connectivity. Even after the fire of consciousness begins to burn bright within ourselves, stoked by truth, the yearning to make it even brighter persists. This may be because the framework of the material body within which all this happens is still duality bound and continues to wield its influence, albeit on a diminished scale. As long as we designate ourselves as us, there is always going to be the other, and we continue to differentiate. This notion conveys the strong likelihood that seership is the highest rung of the ladder of consciousness that mortals can reach. There aren't any rungs beyond that. The unmanifest Supreme hasn't fabricated any more. If it does, then the framework of existence, of duality, will collapse. This could be one point of view. The other could be that seership is the last station, short of the final destination, with a mini staircase secreted away in the mists of superconsciousness. Every seer gets to see this secret staircase upon attainment of seership and fulfilling immigration formalities to make use of the last mile connectivity. All mortals get to become seers and use this LMC, last mile connectivity, at their appointed times. Dissolution of the universe happens when the last mortal has completed this long winding journey, or at least has a definite itinerary to complete it in subsequent iterations of the universal unfoldment. This formulation may seem like a successful governmental administrative blueprint. It stands to reason that in a fractal universe, every arrangement finally mimics a universal expression, and so the described blueprint is actually a universal plan, precisely imitated by subordinate systems of duality, including liberal use of the catchphrases and acronyms to highlight key concepts.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 5.
तदाक्षत्रश्रियम् नरमावरूढम् करामहे मृगायो ऋचक्षसम्.
When we turn our attention to Varuna, having glory of sovereignty, manly one, far-seeing, for grace. A question with a known answer. The most appropriate answer for this interrogative verse, based on the alternative notions considered in descriptions of earlier verses about the universal dynamics and Varuna's role in it, will be that Varuna, the far-seeing, himself will indicate the time when the question needs to be asked. As a seer, perhaps the composer of the verse framed this question knowing the answer in order to highlight it. Every adage that we quote has a universal connotation, or rather, every universally applicable adage percolates down to all subordinate systems of duality. Using one such human domain avatar of an adage here, in the context of the question in focus, it can be said that there indeed is a method to every madness. For if this scheme of creation and dissolution of the universe, and perhaps multiverses also, in a cyclical manner, endlessly, were to be the truth from the mortal perspective, it surely appears to be a meaningless madness with a marked and unmistakable method. From the perspective of singularity, however, it may be absolutely meaningful, a fact that we may understand only when we have shed the common noun appellations of I, you, we, us, them, others, and such. These common noun expressions seem to be the most villainous characters of all in the story of our quest for consciousness. Proper nouns are much less so, as they represent legitimate descriptions of natural processes, activities, or snapshots of such processes at a specific point in time, objects. These two buttress our identity to the detriment of the shift in our centricity of perception, but they are at best harmless speed breakers along the road of our quest.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 6.
प्रयुत्समानमासा देवेनं दानः प्रयुच्छतः धृतव्रताय दासुषे.
Indeed, yearning of both equally obtained, not erring, to maintaining of order for donor. An impersonal perspective of the universal mechanism. Another instance of human apprehensions about incorrect behavior on their part leading to tarnished reputation projected upon immortals to describe their purported behavior. Immortals, by their manifest peculiarities, can never err, never tire, never deviate from the work assigned to them. If at all they have a yearning, it may be to be like mortals, to experience pleasure and pain, success and failure, elation and disappointment, birth and death. However, it is quite unlikely that they have this mortal quirk, for they would then become prone to err, something that they cannot afford, for the functioning of the perfectly organized system of existence. This reasoned deduction is what is sought to be conveyed by the verse. Immortals aren't what they are because of their perceived virtuosity, nor are mortals what they are due to their supposed errant behavior. Both exist by design, to express existence by the universal script. The stern Varuna and the liberal Mitra are considered as specimen immortals to arrive at the deduction, though it applies to immortals in general, to every one of them in the human created pantheon. Existence imposes upon the lot of mortals to constantly err, despite their powers of deduction, and generate problems for themselves. It is left to the lot of immortals to tirelessly rectify them and keep the progress of existence from being derailed. And the Supreme witnesses all this from his perch in Neverland, unperturbed. This can be an impersonal perspective of the universal mechanism.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 7.
वेदायोगीनाम् पदमन्तरिक्षेण पतताम् वेदनामः समुद्रियाः.
He who has known region of birds flying by middle world has known oceanic ships. Immortals in heaven because mortals on earth. Reverting to a more impassioned perspective of the universe, one is left astounded at its complexity that begins with an apparently simplistic expression and rapidly diversifies in a very organic and rule-based approach to incredible proportions. And the astonishing manner in which mortal seers engage with this wonder in ways that are comparable with the way in which immortals conduct their business. The understanding about the universe so obtained by seers and disseminated to their mortal brethren gives the average mortal the conviction that, however insignificant in stature, it is yet an important cog in the universal wheel. It grants the confidence to the average mortal to declare with complete assurance that immortals are in heaven because it, the mortal, is here in the supposedly lower worlds. A true and profound notion indeed. It also provides the perspective to view a bird flying high up in the sky and a ship sailing in the oceans to be functionally identical, based on the conception of Varuna to represent the deep wisdom of anything that flows, whether it be a molecular cloud in space, the atmospheric air that surrounds the earth, or the oceans that cover 71% of the earth's surface and contain 97% of the earth's waters. In a discerning mortal, it also instills the temperance of thought to recognize that despite the causative existential connections between the unmanifest supreme, the immortals, and themselves, mortals need to live according to a code of conduct, and also whether or not they do so is not within their purview. Yet, there will be repercussions to whatever that they are made to do. Yes, this is as complex as anything can get, but that is the universe for everyone.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 8.
वेदमासो धृतम् व्रतोद्वादश प्रजापतः वेदायवुपजायते.
He who maintains order has known 12 months abounding in progeny, has known one who was born. Varuna and time. Each verse in this series considers a facet of nature to focus upon, the kind of order that exists in it, the flow corresponding to it associated with waters, and attributing the maintenance of this order to Varuna. The 12 months of an year come with their own distinct flavors, resulting in a range of expressions encapsulating the uniqueness of each, all of which are considered progeny of that particular month. the river of truth that initiates and maintains these expressive offspring of months and limits their figurative flowering within the bounds of the monthly character is the flow of time. This highlights the versatility of the concept of waters and shows that in Vedic thought, even notional flows are considered waters and carriers of truth. As time is a universal concept, so too will be Varuna, the representative of waters and the one who maintains order based on the truth that they carry. This makes immortals to have two incarnations, one that is earthbound and the other universal, and as a personified and named object, Varuna must have a form, even if it is a notional one. Upon earth, Varuna's abodes are the oceans, his mount a crocodile-like creature. In the flow of time, the collective of his expressions for a given slice of time is his form, and his mount is time itself. Representing waters on earth, and water being a component of the molecular cloud that formed the solar system, he has known the sun and its planets since they were born, while the universal Varuna, by a similar argument, has known the manifest supreme since its birth. Some of these logical arguments may seem trivial and superfluous, but they do establish a context for better understanding existence.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 9.
वेदवादस्य वर्तनि पुरोर्विश्वस्य बृहतः वेदाये अध्यासते
Has known path of spacious, high, great wind, those who dwell above. Varuna and wind. Wind has multifarious expressions too. Each layer of the atmosphere has its unique complexity with regard to the action of forces causing airflow, the rate and direction of movement, and the dynamics of their interaction with wind mechanics of layers immediately below and above it. Contemporary science divides the atmospheric region between the Earth's surface and outer space into 5 layers. So does Vedic thought, as mentioned in the Gayatri Mantra. They are Bhuva, Sva, Maha, Jana, and Tapa. The sun is said to embrace these layers with its light and energy. The constitution of each is a bit different from the corresponding layer according to the formulation of science. By the reckoning of science, beyond its 5 layers is outer space, while in that of Vedic thought it is heaven where the gods reside. Perhaps the notional fractal equivalents of these layers exist in the spiritual realm too, with the manifest supreme embracing them. However, the Vedic visualization that truth or the laws of nature that apply universally flow through these regions, making the constituents in them to express themselves in definite ways that directly affect and shape life on the earth's surface, is a theme that is common to both. That the Vedas make heaven the abode of gods, yet make their functional domain extend to earth down to its core, and the view of science that physical laws act uniformly in any situation anywhere in the universe do find resonance. That earthbound Varuna and his heavenly counterpart would be surely aware of the whereabouts and activities of all the other divinities in heaven and earth will be a cinch of a deduction given their curriculum vitae.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 10.
निषेधादधृतं व्रतो वरुणः पस्त्या आस्मा साम्राज्याय सुक्रतुः.
Varuna, maintainer of order, having perfect thoughts, has sat in continuance in all dwellings for universal sovereignty. Varuna, the Home Minister of the universal government. The universe can be compared to a state that is envisaged to be formed from four elements: territory, population, government, and sovereignty. The universe has an infinite territory, an infinite population of mortals, a government administered by the immortals with the manifest supreme as its head, who asserts its sovereignty, that gives its governing body the fundamental right over the internal matters of the universe, and also permits exercising supreme control over all citizens, organizations, and associations within the universe's territory. Control is exercised by establishing and enforcing laws and punishing those who violate them, and occasionally rewarding those who adhere to laws regularly and implicitly. Law enforcement requires a widespread network of informers who keep a tab on daily developments happening within the territory. Varuna, the Home Minister of this government, does one better. He dwells within the minds of every mortal, monitoring its every thought and action minutely, keeping records of violations, adherence, and exceptional adherence. These records are stored safely in an inviolable vault, accessible only by Varuna, that is, in the custody of the life spirit of the mortal, which is carried by it across births. This distributed data storage arrangement eliminates the need for a supercomputer with infinite memory to hold the unimaginably large law enforcement data. Justice, too, is dispensed locally and personally without the need for courts, lawyers, police, and other paraphernalia. Other ministries of the universal government, each headed by an immortal, have their hands full with the various issues to be dealt with in a territory as infinitely large as our universe. Thus does the Manifest Supreme establish and maintain sovereignty over his vast domain. Political expressions in the mortal world are replicas of the universal government and its mode of functioning.
Mandalam 1, Suktam 25, Rik 11.
ततो विश्वान्यद्भूतादिगित्वा अभिपश्यति कृतानि जगत्वा.
Wherefore, familiar with all marvels, he looks upon towards those that are done and those that are pending obligations. Pendency of case files on Varuna's table. The efficiency with which Varuna's information flow is organized and the quick decision-making process of his ministry in the universal government of the Manifest Supreme works is indeed a marvel. The same can be said of every other ministry as well. As efficiency and perfect arrangement is always a pleasure to experience, the immortals must surely be an ecstatic lot, enduringly. But the seer composer yet mentions about pendency of files relating to cases in progress. Perhaps red tapeism is also a universal phenomenon that has permeated the divide between its system and those of its subordinate mortal systems, spreading this malady. Or perhaps it is standard practice attributable to the innate benevolence of immortals from the viewpoint of mortals, with the former willing to grant the latter a long rope, an opportunity to reform as an accused before passing judgment, dispensing justice, and officially declaring him a sentenced convict. The benevolence of Varuna extends further. The convict is given time to file a mercy petition with the manifest supreme for full or partial remittance of sentence on grounds of intended good behavior, a ploy that cannot be exercised in mortal courts. This increases the duration of pendency of files on Varuna's table or on the dashboard of his computer screen that prominently mentions in bold script the number of files cleared and those pending. It is this stack of files or the colorful dashboard on the screen that the seer looks at with remote vision and makes a sweeping statement in the form of a metered verse about pendency of files and impending obligations. If you found this video informative and relevant, please like and share it. If you would like to see more such videos in this ongoing series, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for viewing.